Matty, I am very amped to have you on. 6 p.m. I know you're a wanted man. You have been extremely busy in the last day and pretty much the last couple of years. We got to connect in Austin when I was there. You were my tour guide. We went on a very scenic route for a marathon, which was pretty gnarly.
Yeah, that was probably your longest marathon you ever ran, but it was a hell of a tour.
Dude, wasn't it? I think had you not been there, I would have just ran that river loop and not seen half of the cool stuff we got to see. But it obviously meant a lot to me that you came out. We connected via socials. And then you were just like, I'm going to come run 30, what did we do, 30 kilometers, which is, I can't even remember how many miles that is now.
Yeah, I ran 20 because I remember I had that Achilles issue,
Yeah.
and
And
I had
then,
to go, I had to go to PT.
and you were weighing up dogging PT or avoiding PT and then just ripping the rest. But obviously, recovery is more important.
Yeah.
I got to learn so much more about you on that run. That was extremely inspiring. Obviously, for people who are just finding out about Matty now, especially the Australian audience, Matty is, I guess, in the true sense of the word, someone who has been on his knees, really struggling to have the desire to keep going, to finding it within himself to, I guess, grab life by the balls essentially and prove that he is capable of more. Where you're sitting at now is incredibly inspiring, but it wasn't always that way. Now, even just a couple of years ago, you'd gone through a bit of a rock bottom, but could you give my audience a bit of a rundown on who you are and where you're at in your life currently?
Yeah, so I think the quick rundown is I was born in small town, Midwest United States, population maybe 1,000 people. And, we grew up super poor. It was just my mom and I, single mom. And, I think my traumas that led me to ultra running, my mom got married when I was 8, and we just were in a very mentally and physically abusive relationship with her ex husband. And my mom accidentally, she was taking pills to kind of avoid life, and in that very bad mentality that she was in, and ended up ODing. I found her on the floor when I was 16, and just so much trauma that led me, I think, to try to exit that situation. So I joined the military, and spent 10 years in the military, got married myself super young. And as I think we were together at 18 and 21, 22, and got married and just grew apart. Nothing really wrong with that, but grew apart. I would say that's when I really hit my low, and got to a point in 2020, this was in 2023, where I wanted to take my own life. And I remember having a battle with myself in that process, and we can dive back into this, trying to do the quick rundown here. But
Yeah.
decided in that moment that I wanted to leave and just try again. And I moved to Austin, Texas in 2023, got down here, and had no idea what I was going to do. Didn't have the Instagram following. I had we're kind of, I think, I was at like 30K, I think 30,000 on Instagram. And so, yeah, I definitely had the following, and, just wasn't sure. I didn't know. What did I want to be, an online coach? Like, what did I want to do? And sure enough, by the grace of God, and I'm here now. I don't know what the hell I am. I'm a jack of all trades, I think. But yeah, that's just, the quick version rundown of where I am.
I think what drew me to you, even before we obviously met in person, you took me to the 7-Eleven, which we'll dive into later on, was you are just genuinely happy being you. Like I don't feel like you try to fit into like specifically the running culture or any specific culture. You just do all the stuff that you want to do. I think there's a huge lesson in that, and it's easier said than done. A lot of people say just be yourself, and you know, the more you can allow people to see who you are, the better quality of life you'll live.
Yeah,
But that's fucking hard, man. Like, because you can get torn to shreds. And I'm sure you probably have like one side of your audience who absolutely loves you, and then there's another side who just despises you.
yeah. But the great thing is they're both following along. Yeah, I think people have an easier time being them in real life, but then they try to get on social media and be someone else. And that's the real problem. I feel like, in our normal life, we have more, I guess, you see people that are more fake on social media. And that's the problem, is that, then it sets up a conversation like this, right? To where you're like, oh my gosh, like you're you're an anomaly because you're actually but it's created that perception, right? Because there's so many people out there that are just fake. And I feel like, that's the cool thing about, I feel like that's why I have so much growth, is because the more that people meet me and the more that questions are asked of like, yo, like, what's he like? And everyone's like, he's like exactly what he's like on the gram. I mean, he's just crazy. So yeah, I mean, but I feel like, every time that someone, but that is the answer, just what you said, just be you. That
Mm.
truly is the answer. But with that being said, not everyone can be a writer. Not everyone can be a movie director. Not everyone can be a welder. I don't know if people have this perception that everyone can be in the content game. Well, it's like, oh, you can blow up on social media because anyone can do it. Well, I mean, yes, but also at the same time, I think that there is a little bit of something behind it, like a trade. I don't know. I guess I have something. I don't know what I have. I don't know what trade it is, but I did it, I guess.
Yeah, you've definitely done it, and it's
Yeah,
very
there is that.
cool to.
It's kind of there's a thing. You have to kind of have the thing.
I have to agree because social media has been a tool that I've used for fucking 10 years, and I've I've
Yeah.
got what 25,000 followers or something like that, but probably 20% of that came from my wife's success a decade ago and everything like that. So it's just like it is a game, and it's probably something that I haven't, I guess, fully dove into and been like, all right, this is something I'm going to excel in. It's more so like this is a tool that goes with my arsenal. So I wouldn't compare myself to you in regards to like, oh fuck, Matty's got hundreds of thousands of followers, whereas I've only got X amount. Why is that? Because we spoke a lot about it while we were running around things that you're always testing stuff as well, and you're gaining ideas and you're seeing what works, but you're obviously aligning it with who you are as a person, the message you want to share. And it's almost like a game.
Yeah.
And half the stuff you were saying to me, I was like, man, I haven't done that. I've never thought about it like that. And it's got me curious to want to do it more. But I think there's still reservations with me because I have other things in my life that I'm focusing on. But I do love the idea of what it can be.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree 100%. I think that, I think you can mold it into whatever you want it to be, but I think that, like, you have to have a special something in order to, you have to be a good storyteller. Like we talked about that, right? Telling stories. Like you got to be a good storyteller, but the cool thing is that I try to live my life like I don't I mean, here's the thing. If Instagram crashes tomorrow, I have something I can go back to, right? Like I can go back to, I go back to the military. I can go into a trade. Like, I was a combat medic for a while. I was a truck driver. Like I know how to like do real things. So I pride myself in like being able to, as well as like I built my business. I built my coaching business. I built, enough friendships with networks of, being able to build up to, maybe I'll go own real estate or something like that,
Mm,
right? Like the content is what supplies the ability to, if Instagram crashes tomorrow, I know that I can go do something else because I've learned so much from it.
for sure. I
Yeah.
think, as you said, like the storytelling, what that always comes back to me is like it's the life that you want to live allows you to tell the stories. A lot of people are trying to tell stories when they live a boring life. And like that's true. Like so many people that I speak to are just blown away by, I live a very unique lifestyle with my wife. We travel a lot, similar to you, but
Yeah.
as a result of that, there's a lot of risk involved. There's moments where we're like, man, I would just rather take the safe option and do the 9 to 5 and know that I'm getting a paycheck. But because we take the risk, we get the reward in the fact of it's not always money, but it's like wicked adventures and experiences, which then become interesting stories to the average person.
Yeah.
And that pays off in the long run in regards to like being able to tell cool stories because people are just, glued to their phones wanting to watch cool shit that they wish they were doing.
Yeah.
And to
Great.
your point, if Instagram goes down or if my business melts, I'm still going to do the cool shit anyway because I enjoy it. There's
100%.
something to that for those who watch you or for those who watch me, if you get inspired by it, the thing is like, what aren't you doing that you would love to be doing, and how can you just take that one step to do it so you
Yeah.
can
And that's
start
the same
create.
thing as me. Like, 2021, 2020, late 2020 and 2021, like I was doing the same shit I'm doing now, training wise. I wasn't really racing because I didn't understand it yet, but I was still doing probably what people would think is freakish shit, like where I'm like just going out and running, 30 kilometers on absolutely no water, no carbs, no nothing because I don't know what the
Just
hell I'm
zen.
doing. And I'm just like, I'm just trying to figure it out, and I'm like doing these like Spartan events and I was doing these DECA events and like, yeah, I was just doing crazy shit. And then I just figured out that, I started recording it and I started taking pictures of it and I started posting it. And it was like slowly, slowly, slowly. And then I started to learn how to tell stories around it and be funny and like bring the funniness into this serious running culture, while also at the same time being like a savage motherfucker, like being that person to, that's the mold that I went into is like, I am this, I want to be in the same conversations as, David Goggins and Cam Hanes and, these tough dudes.
Mm.
But I want also at the same time to be like, yeah, like Matt will go do that. And then he'll go smoke a cig and have a beer, and it's like people don't do that shit. Or he'll smoke a cig while he does it, like just off the wall shit. And, because that's how I was raised in the military. Like it was just, and I mean, yeah, I mean, I say the sick thing because I did that this morning on my. I don't know if you saw that reel or
Yeah, I
not,
did say, yeah, yeah.
but like people think I'm like like a chain smoker, and I'm like, no, I'm like anytime that you ever see me smoke a cigarette is like the one time that I'm actually doing it. So if it's on the gram, then I'm doing it, but it's only been like 3 or 4 times I posted it. But people think I'll rip like packs a day.
Just absolute chain smoker. But
Yeah,
even like before that conversation, well, this conversation was a possibility. Take us back to the marriage breakdown. You said, or not even a breakdown, you just grew apart. Like, obviously, you were young at that point. You still are young, but to have the maturity to understand that you're growing apart, a lot of people would just, I guess, grind the marriage out and become resentful, become miserable. But you and your ex-wife were just like able to part ways. Can you sort of run us through how you knew it was at the end,
yeah. I
what
mean, you
toll
know,
it took on you as well?
yeah. To be honest, like it was a lot of, I was wanting to travel a lot and I was wanting to like, I wanted to go train and I wanted to train with other people. Like I was coming to Austin just like, I'd been to Austin like once every couple months to train for like a week. And like I loved that lifestyle while she wanted to stay back home, and didn't really want to do that. Like she still trained on her own. I love that you asked this because I really haven't like broke it down that much. I always just kind of skip over it. But to be completely honest with you, like I got this taste of like this whole different lifestyle and having people having eyes on me and having people think, that I was cool as shit, right? Like I'm just this small town kid who has no idea about anything, right? And people think I'm cool. People think and I was chasing that dopamine. I was chasing that dopamine of like me going and training with other people and like just demolishing them. And these are like elite athletes and I'm destroying them. And people are like, dude, you're incredible. Like, you're great, And I'm like, yeah, like I am, right? Like just building it up. And I think, and I'm going to be honest with you, like, I think that is what really kind of, I think it was more on me that like made us grow apart because I was getting a taste of that. And, then I was coming home and I wasn't being a good husband and I wasn't being a good man. Like because I was so consumed in, this false reality of Instagram right off the bat.
Mm.
And, that was at like 15,000, 10,000 followers. Like that was way before, you know, so I think, and that's kind of what started, pulling us apart. And she was kind of, going her way with training and I was wanting to go this way. And, we got to a point where like we were just, like you just said, like, like we were miserable. Like we were living a miserable life. And I'm gonna be honest here. Like I would have never why I hit that low, the lowest point of my life, like I can see it in my brain right now, like I'm watching it happen, was because I would have never made that decision as a man. I would have lived in that. She made the decision. She's the one that met me and was like, we need to separate.
Mm.
Because as a man, like I would have just rather been miserable than to break apart. I think to like feel like I failed. Even though, like I said, I'm not gonna lie over it. Even though it was mostly my fault, And but here's the thing: when I say that, people grow and people change, as they're younger, I didn't like I look back at that person and I'm like that, like I'm disgusted at who that was. Like it's not even me, and she said, "Hey, like I want to separate," and she separated. Like there was no thought, there was no second thought about it. Like she's like, "Hey, it's over. I'm leaving."
When you say disgusted, like what do you mean by that?
Just because, like I look back at that person and I'm like, that's not like that's a boy. Like that's just someone who didn't know. Like I could have done so many things different. But also, I believe in God's plan as well. And where I am today is where I need to be. And I would never have experienced any of this without having that, that divorce happen. So, well, at the same time, I'm grateful that it did happen. Like I look back at that person and I'm like, man, I would have done so many things differently or treated her a different way in this situation or understood more what she was saying.
Mm,
So I think that the lesson here is that, you are always growing. And, I think that there also is a lesson there and to not get married young.
mm.
If you are a young person listening to this, I don't feel like I had my shit together until I was 28 and I'm 30 now and I still don't feel like I have my shit together.
I'm
So
35 and I'm confused.
yeah, so if you're 22 years old and you're thinking that you met the love of your life, just you can love that person without a marriage that is, gonna involve a lot of things. Um But yeah, I mean, that led me, to the lowest point where like I felt like I was a failure as a man. Like I felt like as a man, like I was supposed to provide and I was supposed to be that person. And then when I was told like, hey, it's over, it's done, you didn't do your job, then like that was when I hit, my lowest point. And I remember sitting upstairs alone in my bedroom and I had a shotgun on my lap and I was just sobbing. Like I was sitting up against my bed. Like I can literally picture that moment. And I was just sobbing and just thinking that like there was no way out of it. Like there was no way that it would ever be better, like this was the end of the world in my brain at that moment. And I don't know, something pulled me out of it. And I had this idea that I had just got back from Austin at the time. Like she met me when I got back from Austin and was like, "Hey, like it ain't, this is over." And I had a friend, he was staying in an Airbnb down there and I knew that he had an extended stay. And I just had an idea. I'm just going to drive back to Austin. I was like, I'm just gonna jump in the car. I'm gonna drive back to Austin and like I'm gonna figure this out. With the whole idea that I was actually gonna come back and like we were gonna work it out type of thing.
Mm.
And I grabbed the dog, I grabbed a bag, and I left for Austin. I never came back. I like my goal, I had $3,000. I put that 3 grand into an Airbnb that I could afford for like 13 days. And I was like, my goal was to go back, but then like once we hit like day 10, I realized like it was I wasn't gonna go back. And at that point, I was like, okay, like I have no money. I have an Airbnb, but no money. I'm like, now I need to figure out, like, I need to figure it out. And, that's when I started posting on Instagram and I was like, hey, I'm going to take online coaching clients. If you want me to coach you, because at that point, I had done the Leadville 100. I had ran a 40-mile race. I had won a trail race. Like I had done some things
Mm.
and signed 5, 6, 7 athletes and, made, I don't know, 2, 3 grand. And I was like, okay, like I got 2 grand, that's gonna come monthly. I'm like, let's figure it out.
It's such a relatable story in that you became, obviously, let's use Instagram, but let's, for the everyone else listening, it might be your career where you become so not like obsessed or focused on the status and the growth in that position. As men as well, we want to be the protector, we want to be the provider, and our career is generally how we do that. And as we get more followers or we get the next promotion, it's like that pat on the back. We're doing the right thing. Yet everything else is fracturing in our life. Our relationships are falling apart. Our health's falling. Our hobbies are disappearing, and we just become one dimensional. And when that gets taken away from us, it's generally why we hit that rock bottom point, because it's like everything we thought was us is
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
gone.
Because at the same time, I was exiting them. Like I had already made the choice to exit the military. So at that point, military's gone. Divorce, nothing. Like I had no job, I had no plan. Like I had, that was it, and it all happened at once. And that was, I think, what really sparked that rock bottom moment. Just because, like what you said, right? Like I'm like, well, now I'm fucked. Like now I have nothing. Like I have no like it's done. And yeah, but man, like taking that leap of faith and just trusting in the process and just taking that one step forward, like I feel like I can just be the poster child of like, holy fuck, it can really happen.
I agree. because you also like the cool thing that you touched on as well was you'd done a couple of the Leadville, which is mental and it's on my bucket list, but you've done things, and anyone listening who's going through shit, you've done things as well. You've done shit things, you've done brilliant things. And when you can, I guess, allow yourself to, there's a great quote: when emotions are high, intellect's low. And obviously, when you're feeling like the world's caving in on you, the emotions are fucking just like a volcano erupting. But if you can sit it out and wait it out long enough, logic is going to kick back in and you're going to recognize that there is a roadmap out. It may start with one step, it may start with the video, it may start with applying for a new job, moving towns, whatever it is.
I
But
feel like
that's when
people get so caught up. I actually just had this conversation with a literally my best girlfriend in the entire world. She's getting ready to move from Austin to
sweet.
and we were and she actually just moved from LA to Austin a year ago. And now she's going to go back. But like we
Why?
had job opportunities, but we had this conversation where it was like I feel like people get so caught up in the like I am stuck mindset.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I like talking about someone who owns a business, right? Where you're like, I'm stuck here. Like, or not someone that owns a business, someone that is working somewhere else, right? They're like, I'm stuck here. Like I have my paycheck, I have my bills, like I need to pay my bills, I need to stay here, and they're stuck in a job that they hate, and then they begin to hate their life. And then, and I feel like what people don't realize enough is like you're not chained. And here's the thing, if you hate your job in finance, then it's okay to go find a completely different job. It's okay to go flip burgers. It's okay to go work in a hospital. It's okay to, go work as a construction worker. Like find if you're not fulfilled, you are not locked down and you don't need to suffer. You are a human being.
Mm.
Oh, and it's like, and I feel like we think we have these chains on us, like to our income, to our job, to what we do, that we think that we are then stuck there forever. And it's not true. You can exit at any time. Is it hard? Yes. Are you going to take risks? Yes. But like you will not just one day wake up and be like, man, I love my job again. Like if you are suffering in your life, like you will not just, and you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, you will not wake up one day and be like, man, I'm back to loving life, baby. Like you need to make changes and you are not stuck. And I feel like that's a big thing that people miss.
Do you feel you learned that, like, some of those skills through the military?
I feel like I learned the trait of, pack up and go, and then plant, and then pack up and go, and plant, and pack up and go, and plant, right? Like, because, we were, I never got the opportunity or never got the chance to deploy, but we were a forward readiness unit, which means we always had to be ready. We didn't get usually in the military, you get like a couple months to pre-mob, which is a pre-mobilization where you go and train before you deploy overseas. We didn't get that. We had to be ready within 10 days. So, like, if we got the call for a deployment, we had to be boots on the ground overseas in 10 days. So, we were always training on how to quickly maneuver a situation and be ready. And I feel like that is kind of what, over the years of constantly training for that, I feel like that is kind of what has helped me understand that you're not always stuck. But also I think it's also, you know, has some negatives in my life as well, to where like, I've never stayed in a home for like over a year and a half because like I feel like I need to move. And like I'm very like I need to always go and do the next thing. I can't keep in the same routine for too long. So yeah, but yeah, definitely stems everything in my life now that I'm getting older. I can see where the military did that. I can see where I grabbed it from my 10 years in the service for sure. And which is cool now because back then I was like, 18 to 22, I was like, hell yeah, like blow shit up, let's go. And then like 22 to 26, I was like, yo, fuck this. I hate this shit. Get me out of here. So now it's cool to be able to look back and just appreciate all of it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's been a wild ride for you. So coming out of the, you say you pick up, move, set down, pack up, continue doing that. That obviously led you to Austin after you sort of decided you weren't going to keep the marriage alive. You're there with $3,000. You spend that on the Airbnb. You get a couple of clients, which is madness, but also freaking cool with how quickly you made that happen rather than going, I'm screwed. You went to problem solving mode. What next? Like, because once again, I think last time I checked your followers, you're 360K followers on Instagram alone. You're doing some crazy stuff. You're impacting literally millions of people around the world. You're working with Jelly Roll. You're having fun doing it. How do you go from a guy who's just packed up his life, going through a divorce, was sitting in an attic with a shotgun to now where you're at now?
I don't think the answer to that is as complicated as people think it's going to be. Um, the true answer to that is surrounding yourself with the correct people. And there was so much that happened in that moment, right? Of like when I ran out of the money, right? And I only had like 2 weeks in Airbnb, and then I was in 5 Airbnbs for 61 days. So like it was like jumping to all these different Airbnbs before I could get into a house. But like if you want the short answer of how did I get from there to there is building a community where I'm at. And by building a community, I mean I said yes and did everything in Austin. Everything. Like I went to every run club, I went to every meetup, I went to every fitness event, I went to soccer, like these like pickup soccer events. Like I did everything for probably a year. And that led me to meeting this person, to meeting this person, to meeting this person, to meeting this person who learned about my story and wanted to do a photo shoot to write an article, who wrote the article, and the article blew up, and it allowed me to get more followers, and then I got more followers, and from that came Jelly Roll's chef, which is Ian, who hit me up and was like, "Hey, I'm an ultra runner. I want you to coach me." So I started coaching him, and then that turned into 2 years later. He's like, "Hey, we want to launch a run club. Jelly wants you to help lead it. Jelly wants you to help train him." All of that came from these little tiny events of me putting myself out there and not moving to a different city and being like, okay, that's it. I'm locking down. I'm staying at home. I'm going to work on myself. No, like I put in the extra hours to like, I was grinding on the computer, trying to get clients. I was going places. I was going to different gyms. I was meeting people. And it was the connection. It was the human connection, not the Instagram connection. It was the human connection that allowed me to get to where I am today.
I think it still shows up, like the fact that you came out and ran with me as well for during that day as well, literally the day before. You're like, yeah, yeah, I'll come for sure, which was gnarly. And I feel a lot of people don't do that because of, social anxiety, or they're worried about judgment, or they just feel like they don't have time. But as you said, it's like you just put in the extra work to make it
It
a
also,
reality.
I want to give you some flowers on that too, because it just shows you, I think that you had tagged me. I had seen later, you had tagged me in like 4 or 5 stories leading up to that
Persistent.
day. And I had seen it a couple times. You know what I mean? Like I had seen it, but then I had just moved on, and I'd moved on, and I'd moved on, just scrolling through messages, and and then I saw it again, and I was like, "Oh," I was like, "This dude's doing what?" So like I think, I want to give you your flowers there on like consistency of like if you're doing something, you need to keep putting it out there because the right people will see it. But, coming back to me as well, right? Like I'm like, "Oh, like I see this dope dude who is doing this cool stuff from Australia, connected to people that I know, connected to brands that I know." And I'm like, "Yeah, like I'm going to for sure go out there." And then you think of the butterfly effect, right? That turned into like who knows who's going to listen to this and be affected by it. That would have never happened if I would have never made the decision to go out there. So like that is this podcast. Like I'm not saying that, yeah, I'm saying this podcast would have never happened and people wouldn't have been able to listen to it if I would have never, seen it, if you would have never tagged me in it multiple times. There's so much at play here. And, you know, if you say no, you're never gonna know.
Mm.
And I feel like that is the biggest thing is, there, yeah, I understand that life is busy and there's times for yeses and there's times for no. But if you say no, you will never know.
That's
Drop
it.
that.
Bam. That's it. But it's all, yeah, if you're in a period of growth, or you need to grow, that's where you need to be saying yes to the opportunities. If you're in a place where you're looking for a little bit of routine, or you're content, it's like that's where you have the opportunity to
Because now
say,
I'm different. Because
yep,
now I'm in my routine. Like I know the goals that I have. I don't, I already have a community built, So it's like, you need to take that. Everything is in seasons, or in, relating it to books, it's in chapters, right? Like, you need to take that season, take that chapter to have that yes man mentality. So that way you can build the community. And then guess what? You don't need to do it later. Then later you can rest. And that is true, because if you only say yes once or twice, then next thing you know, it's 2 years down the road and you're still saying yes once or twice. But if you just say yes 1,000 times in a row and just get it out of the way, you will build a community and you will have time to relax later.
100%. But the thing is, as well, off the back of that, you haven't stopped writing different chapters. I'm glad I got through in February or March, whenever I was there, if you've closed the doors now. But for you to also be doing coaching people at an elite level, building obviously a brand on socials, and then finding time to still do hard shit, things that which in the social, I guess, realm you could fail. You chose to run across Texas, which I really enjoyed. But it also puts you out there to fail in front of a lot of people. Like, why do you still choose to do those things? How do you deal with the social weight? Because there's hundreds of thousands of people, and as we said earlier, there's probably half those people who are cheering you on, and the other half people are watching and hoping you're going to fail. So how do you deal with that, and what still drives you to do that stuff?
Because I truly got to a point where I don't give a fuck what people think. Like, and that is the truth. Like, I do that for me. I don't do that for fucking social media gain. I don't. And I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I don't go race for social media gain. I don't go run across Texas for social media gain. I ran across Texas because I knew that was what was going to get the most eyes on me in order to raise money for veterans. And like, this actually isn't even out there yet. Just today, I'm going to do the Tahoe 200 in a month, literally a month from today.
Is that 200K or miles?
200 miles around Lake Tahoe.
320 kilometers.
Yeah. And like, but I've never done a 200. But I'm not doing it for. So I'm not even taking like Drew, one of my best friends, is gonna come out and crew me. He's gonna bring his camera and take some pictures. But like, I'm not fucking filming YouTube. I'm not fucking, like what I record is gonna be what I don't. I do that for me because I need in my head. I lived my entire life with my back against the wall. I grew up in a double wide trailer that was just a trash bag in a trailer park, and grew up with a single mom who could barely afford food, grew up with an abusive stepdad later on, grew up in the military as a young man. Like, I have always had my back against the wall, and I am finally now in a place in my life where my back isn't against the wall. I am doing very good. But that's not my norm. My norm is putting my back against the wall, and I have to put my back against the wall in order to continuously grow as a man. And that's why I keep doing what I'm doing, because I don't want to get complacent with like, oh, life is good, life is great. Like, I was raised in the struggle, and I have to go struggle in order to like continue, just continue growing mentally and physically and spiritually as a man. Because when I go out there and I do these events, I live 100 lifetimes. I do. And it's just, and that's why I do it, because it's just a reminder of like, I already grew up in the struggle. This shit ain't fucking hard. Like, does it suck? Hell yeah. But like, I've done real life hard, bro. Like 200 miles, 800 miles, 300, 400, 500, 1,300 kilometers across Texas. It's not fucking hard, man. It sucks, but it's not hard. Hard is watching your mom not eat because you don't have enough food. So like, you're the one sitting there eating while she's in tears because there's no fucking food. That's fucking hard. This shit isn't hard. This shit is just a suffer fest because I'm fucked up mentally and I need to get off. You know what I mean? Like fuck, man. But like that's it. Like, my back's not against the wall, and God has blessed me, and I'm doing very well for myself. But like, that's not my norm. I still need some of my norm, and I will continuously suffer because that's what I love to do, and I love to remind myself where I came from. And going out there and getting into those deep dark moments, it reminds me, of shit that I have went through, and I don't want to forget that, because
I think
it built me to who I am today.
there's like a beauty in it as well, because it doesn't allow you to think you're better than you are when times are going well. I heard this quote a couple of weeks ago. And then when times are going crap, you're not as bad as you think you are as well. So it's sort of like creating that
Yeah.
balance point. And it's very easy when life gets good because we're designed to chase comfort. Like that's what we're doing. We're always like, more money will solve this problem, better relationships or more sex will solve that. More followers will solve that. And we're constantly doing that. But what we fail to recognize is every solution creates a new fucking problem.
Yes. I just had this conversation today with a very, very wealthy friend. And we were talking about just this right here. And it was like, man, when I make my first $1,000 a month, life's going to be great. And then you get it. And then it's like, when I make my first 5 grand a month, life's going to be even better. And then you get it. And then it's 10K, 20K, 30K, 50K. And you keep just chasing. You keep, and because it's not going to get better. What you need to do is what you love.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that's going to, make you whole. It's just doing what you need to do to feel like a human being. It's not about the money. It's not about it's not about having more and more and more of things. It's about just doing what makes you feel whole.
Well, that's
And in my opinion, having a relationship, like having a good relationship with God, because I promise, like I'm a picture perfect part of that as well. Where, like I got back into my faith and started going back to church and my life freaking changed, man. And yes, I say fuck a lot, but it's okay. It's okay. Cussing Christian.
can you, I guess, expand on that a little bit more? Because religion, obviously, I've lived in the States, lived here, and religion is far more prominent in the States. And people, a lot of my friends over in the States have a relationship with God. Here, it's just like not a thing. So you spoke about the time where you didn't have the relationship with God, and then you now do. What changed, and what do you feel the benefits were for you? Like, if that makes sense.
I like my first thing that I would say to somebody that isn't sure is, if you're not sure, wouldn't you rather spend your life guessing on the right side than guessing on the wrong side? Right? Like, I mean, that wouldn't you rather believe that there might just be a chance of a heaven after all, rather than be completely wrong and you don't get to see it whatsoever? Like if there was a chance of you making $1 million, I'm pretty sure that you would do everything you could if there was a slight chance that you could get it, rather than being like, I ain't gonna get it, so I ain't even gonna try. Like that's my biggest thing that I like to
Well, it
say.
makes sense, right? That for
Yeah, I
sure.
mean, it's that's the dumbed down version. But for me personally, like what I have seen in my life, and this is me, I always say, like, I don't preach to people. Like, I'm not here to tell you, I don't give a shit what you believe. I think you should, and I hope that you do, and I will, but I'll love you either way. But for me, what changed was when I started going back to church when I met Amanda, my girlfriend now, who is the most incredible human being in the world. And we started dating, right? Went on a couple dates, like staying over her house. And she's like, hey, like, you want to go to church with me? And I'm like, I'll go where the fuck you want me to go. You know what I'm saying? You tell me, honey, I'm there. But it allowed me to go back to church, and it allowed me to, what I think happened is, allowed me to understand that, you know, God has a plan for your life. And it kind of shifted my perspective. And like, it's always been about me, 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 me. Like, this is what I want at all times, to, shifting my prayers and my perspective to, what is the path that you want to put me on? And that right there is when kind of my idea of content changed, where I kind of stopped chasing the following clout and really started chasing, like, how many people can I help? How many people can I use this platform to assist people? And it also, I feel like, gave me a better heart in loving people and helping people. And I feel like the more that I have loved and helped people, the more that has came back to me. And there's just, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's that right there. It's just, when you fully commit yourself to, like, what's the worst thing that can happen?
Mm.
When you're like, all right, like, you're like, I'm going to do the prayer, like, Jesus, you're my Lord and Savior. Thank you for everything you've done for me. Amen. And then you go about your life believing, what is the worst thing that could happen? It doesn't work. You live the same life. Like, I don't know.
Just yeah, well, I think for me, listening to what you're saying, it just gives you that perspective as well, right? To look on the optimistic side of life, but also there's obviously a set of, whether it's testaments or rules that, or standards that you guys have that you want to live up to, right? Which is,
Which I feel like everyone dives way too deep into. It's because you want to know what it is. It's be a good fucking person.
yeah, simple.
Don't steal, don't rob, don't kill, don't rape, don't, like, you know what I mean? Like when you I feel like the problem is that people look too much into Christianity and too much into to the Bible that they just do in faith. Like if you just truly pour your heart out to God and you just live your life being a good person and practicing the principles of Christianity, your life's only going to get better. And like, just try it. Just try to be a good person, and then it will lead you in the right direction. And I feel like everyone gets so caught up in, like, oh, the Bible says that we should, stone women, and it's like, yeah, but like, I don't know. I believe my own. I have so much faith in God that, like, I don't know. I live by my own
Rules and
I'm
beliefs.
not a preacher. I'm just a dude.
It's fair though. So for the season of life you're in, what does a good life look like for you now? And I guess being a good man as well, because that's something that majority of my audience are males. I think it's like 83% of listeners are blokes. So for you in this season of your life, where you're building a business, you're in a great relationship, what does that look like for you?
I'm telling you, like, I just said it. Be a good person and help others. Like, the more that I have went out of my way to help others, the more, even if you don't want to believe in God and you want to believe in karma, right? Like the more good that I have done, the more good that has came to me. And I feel like, you know, if you are just a pissy fucking dude, like if you are just in a bad mood 24/7, walk down the street and hand a stranger a $5 bill. Walk down the street and buy somebody a fucking coffee. Like you can't walk away from that angry. We as humans, I feel like if you are a good human and we are designed to give. We are designed to help each other. But people get so caught up in, like, me, Like, if you're having a bad day, I promise you, walk down the street, look around, see someone that's having a bad day just like you, and go buy them a fucking coffee. And then walk away and watch how your entire day changes. That's it right there for me, is just what can I do today to help somebody else? What can I
Makes
do
me
today?
feel good thinking about it.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is like, I'm like, what can I do today to take time away from myself to help somebody else, to be there for somebody else, to answer questions for somebody else? Just because, to me, I mean, and maybe it's just me, maybe it's just us, maybe, I mean, yeah, everyone's probably not like that, but I feel like the more that you do to give to others, just the happier it's going to make you. And that's that. I mean, if I'm having a bad day and I'm pissed off at life, and I have shit going wrong, like, I drive down the road and look on the side of the road and you have someone sitting there in a wheelchair that has a sign up that says need food, right? Like, it can be fucking worse.
Mm. And for you, like for the rest of the year, what are you focused on doing? Like what's Matty crushing? You obviously said the 200 miler, which is going to be gnarly to watch. So that's from like a physical standpoint, but
Yeah.
holidays, career, what do you got going on?
So I was supposed to do the Leadville 100. So that's now off the table. Sorry, the dogs are just going bananas.
They're excited.
Knock it off. Yeah, so Leadville 100's off the table because there's some stuff. There's some stuff going on with Jelly that I might. It's gonna come out later, but I might need to kind of be available.
Prioritize.
Yeah, so I might need to be available come July. Yeah, I don't know. I'm in this season now of life where I got home and I told Amanda. I said this season right now is I don't know, but I'll let you know, because I don't want to plan anything. Like that's why I was like, oh, I saw this 200 miler and I was like, hell yeah, I was like, I'm gonna go rip that because I'm available. But like, I don't know if I'm gonna be available in July. So if I can't, I've already been to Leadville once. If I can't go to Leadville and I can't compete at the level that I want to compete at this time, I'm not gonna go there to just do it again. So if I can't train the way I want in July, I can't execute that race in August. So I don't know, but there's another Texas run that is I'm eyeballing, which is the Texas 1000. So that's north to south.
Shit.
So I think that's what,
Yeah, 1,600, give or take.
1,600 kilometers. So I'm looking at that in October, which is going to be 1 year post
Badass.
the run across Texas. But yeah, I mean, I told my manager this. I was talking to her yesterday on the phone. I go, or I go to this 200, I break myself off, and I'm like good. I told her that the audience probably love this. I was like, maybe I'll just go there. I'll bust my nut for the year, and then I'll be done.
Yes.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I'm like, maybe I'll just go there and I'll get my load off, and then I'll just be like, you know what?
I'm
I'm good.
satisfied.
I was like, I'm good now. But
Wash your hands and you're done.
I haven't done anything since the run across Texas in October. It's been 7 months. So I need to just do something again. And then I think that you asked me when I'm out there at the Tahoe 200, you asked me at like, maybe you should call me at like mile 100 and be like, yo,
What's up?
what's next? I'm like, not a damn thing, baby. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. There's plenty on the horizon. This 200 possibly helping Jelly in July, and then maybe that'll allow me to train August, September for this Texas run in October, or maybe I just don't do it at all. But those are the things: Tahoe 200, possible Texas run. Yeah.
There's something really refreshing, and I want to let you go because it's late there, but something really refreshing about hearing you say that. One thing that is always on my mind is I have to always be doing rather than being. And I feel like when you just said like you're in this season where it's just like, let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
That scares the shit out of me, but I know it's also something that I need to allow myself to do, where it's just like you have standards as a man, like for me financially, from a health perspective, but I'd love to be able to maintain those standards. And if I want to do this off a whim, then go do that off a whim rather than being like,
I feel like a friend and I were talking about this the other day, and I think this is important to talk about. My neck hurts. Sorry. I'm falling apart over here. 30 years old, I feel like this is
done.
important. I was like, as a man, personal opinion, as a man, you should always be 4 months out from anything. I think you should be 120 days away from being ready for anything. Like, so be in good enough shape that you can pick something 4 months away and train for it and go and demolish it. Whether that's a marathon, whether that's a 100K, whether that's 100 miler, you should always be 4 months away from anything, because I find that there's some peace in that, because it still makes you, if you keep that in your mind, like, or change it to 3 months or change it to 2 months, if you keep that in your mind, you always know that you need to train to be ready. And I read something the other day, and it was talking about like the Spartans back in the day, that like they didn't wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and put their face in ice water and go for a 10-mile run, and then get in the sauna, and then ground themselves and eat raw. They didn't do that, right? They woke up and they did what they needed to do to always be prepared to do something. Whether that was waking up and getting whether I was waking up and sprinting, whether I was waking up and rolling around with other guys, whether that was practicing their sword work, like they spent their days making sure that they were always ready for battle. And I feel like that's something that we miss now in culture as men, is that we just go about our lives and we're like, oh, I'm in this period of I don't know what I want to do. That doesn't mean sit around and drink coffee and eat ho-hos all day. Like, that still means like you should always be prepared for what is coming. And I feel like if you live your life that way, it fulfills you more as a man, because you always know that if you want to do, or if you have the capability to do around your schedule, you can.
I love it. Matt Johnson, everyone. Matty, where can people find you if they want to, creep around Austin? No, I'm kidding. Socials.
Yeah. We're on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all that fun stuff. You can, at this point, you can Google Matt Johnson runner and you will find everything. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. So I found that out from my grandmother. That was the best part. She's like,
Grandma's Googling you. That's amazing.
Google yourself. I was like, that's incredible. Yeah, but yeah, if you guys, if you don't, I won't spit off the Instagram. That's Matt Johnson with 2 underscores pretty much on everything. But if you lose sight of that, if you just Google Matt Johnson runner, it'll pop up somewhere.
Yep.
So probably take some foul shit
from back in the day. Is there one final message you'd love to leave the listeners with? Otherwise, we'll let you go.
Yeah, it's just, your lowest lows or your highest highs never define who you are. It's everything that you do in the middle. And as long as it doesn't matter what happens in your life, as long as you continue to, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down. As
Mm.
long as you just continue to take one step forward, like I want to be the testament that like it will get better. And you can get to where you're going even if you don't know where you want that to be. That's all I got.
And it's been a pleasure, and truly for me, you've impacted my life, even though we've known each other for a very short period of time. Being able to spend 3 hours with you and just pick your brain and hear about all the adversity that you've faced and just how you have such an optimistic view on life left me, when I left out of Austin, I couldn't stop telling the boys how valuable it was. They're like, well, you drove to Austin, which was 15 hours out of our way when we could have ran in Amarillo, and there was one person running with you. And I was like, trust me, boys, I could have paid Matty for his time with how valuable it was. So you're doing incredible things, mate. Honestly, you're such a valuable person to have on this planet. And, I'm very grateful for the friendship we've created.
No, I appreciate that, bro. And I hope that the listeners can take something away from this and apply it to their life and change, you know, change their own. I feel like there's definitely a reason why you drove 15 hours out of your way. And it's cool that it led to this podcast. So hopefully, someone can take something away and apply it to their life and continue to grow.